Hello, eighth graders. Welcome to my house. It's a mess. Sorry about that. Oh. As you can see, your first quarter work, all graded, ready to come. I was reading my new history magazine. There's a new film out for my sixth graders called Mankind's Story of Us. And the eighth graders like America's Story of Us, so I thought you guys would like it even more. So I came to talk to you guys a little bit about that whole 7 principles of government thing. Yeah, got it. Check this out. For Christians, the Bible is our constitution, and it's hung on 10 commandments and the teachings of a philosopher named Jesus. Our government works the same way. It is based on 7 simple principles, and that governs everything. This entire mess and everything that's going on around it is all about 7 principles. So why don't you come over here to my kitchen, my dining room table, and I'm going to show you something. There are 7 principles. Remember I said that? Alright. I can remember them. Can you? Alright. See how these little plastic soldiers? These are my guys. These are really cool. These are the people. Okay? The first principle of government is called popular sovereignty. Now see, in the old world, you had monarchies where you had one ruler. Sometimes you might have a small group of a few people, like priests or rich guys, and they ran the government. Popular sovereignty says no. Popular sovereignty says, we the people, first 3 words of the U.S. Constitution, we the people are in charge of the government. That's popular sovereignty. The government's power comes from the people. It's about consent, and it's a social contract. Remember John Locke. So, the second principle.
Yeah, I'm filming. I was filming you petting the dog.
Sorry, it's my dog. I had to take a brief break there. Sorry. Anyways, so popular sovereignty, first principle. Second principle, republicanism. Now you might ask yourself, does that have anything to do with the political party? No. Does that have anything to do with Mitt Romney? No. Republicanism is this 2 ideas. There's democracy. Demo, meaning rule of the people. But there's 2 types of democracy. In the Greek city-state of Athens, democracy was direct. They took all the citizens that were eligible to vote, and those people actually went to the cities downtown, and they voted and ran their government directly. But America's huge, 2,000 miles, more than that, 300 million people. We can't all just pack our bags and wander over to Washington, D.C. So we come up with a different idea. We the people vote and elect representatives. And these representatives, they're the ones that go to Washington and they vote for us. That's republicanism. Republicanism is nothing more than a type of democracy. It just simply means that we, the people, vote from representatives who go to Washington for us. Okay? Third thing. Ready for this? Federalism. Wait, let me show you how this works. Salt and pepper, anybody? I love salt. Lots of pepper. In the old world, there was only a national government ruled by a king. He had all the power, did everything on his own. Because our forefathers, the framers, wanted a government that wasn't that powerful, they said that the local and state governments, local and state, the white salt, and the national government, the black pepper, needed to work together. They had to share power. National government can't run the country on its own. State and local governments can't run the country on their own. They have to work together. So the Constitution, ready? Are you listening? Are you hearing me? Good morning. Delegates powers to the national government for them to do their job. It reserves powers for the state and local governments to do their jobs. And then there are powers in between called concurrent powers. And those, my friends, are powers that are shared between the national government and the state government. That is called federalism. Don't get confused with federal government. Federal government just simply means the national government in Washington, D.C. Federalism is the idea of shared power between the national government and the state governments working together to run the country. So, 4. You're keeping score, right? You are keeping score, right? Score, right? Keeping? Okay. That's 3. We're on 4 now. 4 is separation of powers. Ah! Why is it so complicated? Let me show you. All these red cups represent all the powers of government. There's a lot of powers of government. I was thorough. Welcome to monarchy. All the powers of government belong in the hands of one man and his nobles. The power to determine what goes on inside the country. The ability to pardon criminals. The ability to enforce the law. The ability to determine our relationship with other countries. That's called foreign policy. Being in charge of the military. Declaring war. Regulating the economy and trade. Being the face of the nation. The nation needs a face. Judging laws and cases. Solving conflicts between peoples. Making the law. Approving a budget. You don't want to spend all your money in one place. Making treaties. Handling currency, the money, and borrowing money when you need it. Whoops, did I screw one up? Also, handling the budget. So the king got the 2, he got to make the budget and approve it. Nice to have both powers, huh? And then of course, last but not, oh, wait, I think I got them all. So, this is what our forefathers said. They said that according to the philosophers, the thinkers that we're going to be reading about, they said powers need to be separated. How are we going to separate them? We separate them into 3 branches. The executive, which is led by the president, the legislative, which is led by Congress, and the judiciary, which is led by the Supreme Court. The judiciary simply means judges. It's the court system, the federal court system. So let me show you how they did this. Our forefathers, they looked at all these powers and they divvied them up. And they said this, check this out. We're going to approve the budget, handle the budget, make laws, handle the currency and borrowing, regulate the economy and trade, and we're going to let the legislative branch, Congress, handle those. The judiciary branch gets to handle solving conflicts, judging laws and cases, and there, they get that power. Congress also gets the power to declare war. The president gets to be the face of the nation. Extra declare war, don't need that. Making treaties, handling domestic policy, handling foreign policy, enforcing the laws, pardoning criminals, and taking charge of the military. So the president gets these powers, Congress gets these powers, the judicial branch gets those powers. Now, he can't run the country by himself because he doesn't have those powers. They can't run the country by themselves because they need these powers. They can't run the country themselves because they need these powers. Separation of powers. We take all the powers given to the king and we divide it up into 3 branches. Now, 5. Checks and balances. Now, to make sure that these 3 guys work together, they all get to check each other out. The president makes sure that these guys are doing their job. Congress makes sure these guys are doing their job. The judiciary makes sure these guys are doing their jobs. And they do that because they get extra powers. And you thought I was out of red cups. Congress gets to approve the treaties that the president makes. The president gets to appoint the judges that serve in the court. Congress has to okay all those appointments. Congress can override the president's veto, which is when the president says, I don't like the law you wrote, so I'm getting rid of it. But Congress can override it if they need to. Congress can also fire the president. That's called impeachment. The Supreme Court can judge whether the laws that the president and Congress make are constitutional. Are they legal? They can throw it out. All of them work together to protect our nation and keep order. All of them determine and protect our rights. That's their job. That's what they hold the Constitution for. And the president has this power. He can veto the laws. Congress can override a veto, but he can veto the laws. So when Congress makes a law, they can send it to the president, and the president can say, I don't think so. Now, if they make a law, the president gets the law, enforces the law, the judiciary can say, sorry, it's not constitutional, not going to work, we're throwing this one out. Yellow flag on the play. Separation of power, checks and balances. Each group works together. Now, the last two concepts are much harder to understand. The last two concepts. So I'm going to get kind of close and personal with you. Number 6 is called limited government. The idea is that government shouldn't have all the power. The idea is that the power needs to be split up. So they limit the power by creating a system of laws which says that everybody has to be treated equally under the law and everybody's required to obey it. The president, all the way down to the homeless crack addict in Southeast Baltimore, they all have to follow the law. They're all subject to the law. Okay? Now I know sometimes things aren't fair and they may not always work out how it's supposed to, but that's what the law says. And the supreme law of the land is the U.S. Constitution. Okay, last one. This is the other one. In protection of individual and property rights. Remember, I said all 3 branches are responsible for upholding our rights. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. The first 10 amendments, an amendment is a system built into the Constitution to allow it to be changed. There are 10 rights. 10. Those Bill of Rights is their responsibility to protect and our responsibility to use as good citizens. And that requires good decision-making skills. That requires good behavior. And that requires educating yourself and knowing what those rights are and how they apply to your life. Even at your young age, they still apply. The government cannot work unless rights are protected and property is protected. Without it, democracy doesn't work. One of those rights are freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom against illegal search and seizure, the need for probable cause, right to bear arms. All those things are part of our 10 basic rights, which are in the Constitution. Constitution is the law limits the government. It's a piece of cake. You guys got it, now I'm ready to go to bed. Have a good night now.